was convinced we were going to lose. And I was walking around Maria Hernandez Park in Bushwick, and I met a guy, and he was like, "Can I take a selfie?" And I was like, "Have you voted?" He was like, "I haven't voted." I was like, "What are you doing?" He said, "My polling site's at my mom's house. It's like a mile away." And I had a car with me that was taking me around from site to site. And I was like, "Get in the car. Get in the car." And I sent him in that car. And then I was alone in the park. But I was like, one vote. We got one vote.
Zohran leads with clarity, compassion, and courage. While we're running for mayor of two vastly different cities, Zohran in the nation's largest city, and mine, a city that has been struggling with disinvestment for decades, we share the same belief. Government should serve working families, not the powerful. Like you, I've been inspired by the way New Yorkers showed up for him in huge numbers to volunteer and elect Zohran Mamdani as the Democratic nominee for mayor in the city of New York. And so with that said, it's my honor and privilege to introduce someone who represents the working families and what they stand for every day. Please give it up for Zohran Mamdani.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. It is such a privilege to join so many progressive champions, those that are on stage, those that are here with us in the crowd, those that have made it possible for us to be in elected office. As we celebrate the work that we have done and we recommit to the work that is still left. Before I begin, I want to take a moment to thank the Working Families Party leadership. In the months since June 24th, the experts, the pundits, they have all weighed in about how our campaign was won, the lessons that should be learned, and what other candidates should emulate. I'm going to leave the post-game analysis to them. What I will say, however, is that this would not have been possible without WFP. It is easy to look at the energy of this campaign today and assume that we were always on course for this. I can assure you that that was not the case. For a long time, no one knew my name, and no one thought that we could win. There's one guy who still can't get it right. But even he can say the words Democratic nominee. But from the beginning, WFP was there. It was WFP leadership that began conversations with me about a possible candidacy before I announced. It was a meeting with Ana Maria at Under Pressure, a coffee shop on 31st Street in Astoria, where she pulled up a poll and showed me at 1%, and that was a very charitable rounding up to 1%. It was groups like New York Communities for Change that endorsed me on the very first day of this campaign. Support more meaningful than words can ever describe. And it was the WFP that came together at the end of May, ranked our campaign #1, and gave us the momentum we needed to sustain that grassroots energy to get across the finish line. It was thanks to your organizing, to your hard work, and to the hard work that so many in this room contributed to, that we were able to reach and persuade thousands of New Yorkers. And as tempting as it is in electoral politics to attribute the success of a campaign to the candidate whose name that voters vote for. We know the truth. This is your victory. This is the victory that you made possible, and it belongs to you. And I'm so proud of what we were able to achieve because I know what it means to so many New Yorkers. I know what it means to the 4 New Yorkers who were in their car as I got back to my apartment building late last night. They jumped out. They ran over to my apartment building front door. I said, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I said, how's it going? And one of them said, I turned 18 just before the primary. And I voted for you. And what they voted for is an understanding of democracy beyond just that of a value, beyond just that of an ideal, but democracy as a living, breathing testament to the idea that we can meet working people's problems. We can deliver them those same solutions. Because too often, we have allowed ourselves to think that democracy is only under attack from authoritarianism coming from Washington, D.C. It is also under attack from an ever-diminishing faith from New Yorkers that it could actually address the crisis of not knowing whether you can pay your rent, the fear of not knowing if you can even afford $2.90 to get on that bus, the knowledge that you may have to leave this city to actually raise those children you hope to have. That too is democracy. And the consequences have been stark. Confidence in City Hall is at an all-time low. Corruption and scandal have become so normalized that we aren't even surprised anymore when a new allegation arrives. What we have now, however, is a remarkable opportunity to not only challenge that apathy, but to send a message nationwide. We can show this country that it is not enough for us to simply fight back against something. We must also fight for working people. And as we turn that page on the failed politics of the past, as we set an example of what good governance can do to restore belief in local government, we know that it will require from us principled and unapologetic leadership. As Donald Trump and his party pass legislation that will steal food from the hungry, that will throw millions of Americans off their health care, and will do so by continuing in their tradition of some of the largest wealth transfers in the history of this nation, from the working class to the billionaires who already have so much they don't know what to do with it, except apparently to sometimes light it on fire in municipal elections. We must call out their self-serving corruption and offer an inclusive affordability agenda of our own. As ICE storms into our communities and abduct our neighbors, we must follow the example of our city's controller, Brad Lander, who is here with us. And show that it is possible to lead with both strength and compassion. And as billionaires like Bill Ackman try to buy our elections in broad daylight, determine which candidates get to run and who gets to run their campaigns, we must come together and demand a politics of the people, by the people, and for the people. That means refusing to cower when millions of dollars are spent by dark money groups and shameless oligarchs, refusing to sell out the most vulnerable, even when it would be politically easiest to do so, and refusing to settle for less. I look out into this room and I see so many other candidates who have led in these same efforts in their cities. Make no mistake, this is one story. The success of our movement is not just success that can take place in one city. It is success that we must see take hold in all of these cities. Because each and every New Yorker that we seek to represent is equally deserving of the dignity that they have been denied. And I take enormous strength from those in this room and from the knowledge that while these next few months will require us to remain organized, strategic, and endure great tests, that we have given millions of people the rarest of things. We have given them hope. People who have never found a political home before now recognize themselves in our campaigns. People who have never dared to dream are doing so now for the first time. In 2021, a few more than 3,000 people were registered to vote in the last 10 days of that mayoral election. This year, we registered more than 30,000 people in that same period of time. This year, we made the highest turnout age groups, the three under the age of 35. This year we showed that if we have the courage to believe in something, the willingness to fight for it, the hunger to deliver that same thing, we can inspire the very New Yorkers who previously had never seen themselves in these elections. And so what I say now is that as we work together, city to city, elected official to elected official, borough to borough, let us prove ourselves worthy of that hope. Let us reject complacency. Let us welcome big ideas. And when we win in November, because that is our responsibility, the days, as I said in the weeks leading up to this primary, the days of moral victories must come to an end. The days of patting ourselves for trying have to be over. We must now enter into the days of victory, the days of delivery, the days of outcomes. So when we win in November, let us win with a heart that is open to those that were with us on the first day and to those who join us on the last day. Let us ensure that we build a city where each and every New Yorker can see themselves in it. This has been the honor of a lifetime, to run alongside you, to fight for this city alongside you. And so above all else, I must say, thank you.
Sorry, I had to improvise for my outfit choice because I didn't really agree to that type of show. Trying to keep it clean and classy, all right, all right. Me again, everyone. So now we're gonna start this amazing panel. Well, we will. Where's Dr. Dorsey? There we go. We will start this incredible panel of these amazing candidates. Really excited to hear from them, so thank you for staying with us. So for my first question, I'm gonna start with you, Zohran, since you're sitting right next to me. The Democratic Party is truly in a moment of introspection as they're trying to figure out how to enlist voters in their vision after Trump's victory last November. Boo, hiss, right? Okay. You just won a highly competitive Democratic race here in the city where last year Trump made real gains, right? Real gains in the city, and thousands of Democrats stayed home. So what lessons do you draw from your race? And what advice would you offer on how to enlist voters into a bold vision?
First of all, can we have a round of applause for an incredible person and an incredible organizer in this city? And I think it's very meaningful to me as we are on the stage as elected officials to be joined by one of the leading lights of the labor movement here in our city. Because we know that our struggle is not one that can deliver everything just from the ballot box. We have to deliver it in the workplace as well. From the beginning of this race, we wanted to ensure that New Yorkers knew what it was that we were fighting for. And so now when I go into a room, I can say, freeze the, make buses fast and deliver universal. Because too often with politics, you don't know what exactly that agenda is. What does it mean to you? What does it mean for your life? And as I sat with the kitchen cabinet of our campaign and we were thinking about what could these ideas be, we worked backwards from what are the crises in working people's lives. Too often we think of our responsibility as politicians to make the possible seem as if it is the principled. Our job is to make the principled into the possible. And we know, ask any New Yorker, you know that housing is the #1 crisis. You know that after housing, it's childcare. You know that in a city of 8.5 million people, more than 1 million ride the bus. And it's the slowest bus in the country. So how can you speak to those crises directly? And how can you also do it with a humility that you not lecture, but you listen? And I mean that as something that we should embody. And I also mean that with who we have in this audience today. One of the things I was most proud of as an elected official before running for mayor was fighting with the New York Taxi Workers Alliance for close to $500 million of debt relief. And the pinnacle of that fight was a hunger strike. We went on for 15 days. We didn't know it was going to be 15 days. And that idea, for me, came from my colleague in the audience here, Marcela Matenas, who went on that hunger strike for the Excluded Workers Fund that same year. So to know that we have things to learn from others, and we have them also to learn from New Yorkers, and that I think the thing New Yorkers hate more than a politician they disagree with is one that they cannot trust. So it's not to say every New Yorker agrees with my policies, but they know what they are. They know that when I'm speaking to CEOs of the top companies in this city, I am still speaking about matching the state's top corporate tax rate to that of the radical socialist utopia of New Jersey. They know that I am saying the same thing in the Bronx that I'm saying in Staten Island. I'm saying the same thing in Astoria that I'm saying in Jamaica. I'm saying the same thing in Tribeca that I'm saying on Dyckman. And that's important because if you don't have the consistency, then you don't know where you actually stand with the politicians seeking to represent you.
Thank you. Round of applause for that, please. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to ask, let's see, how much time do I have? Can I do 10 minutes? All right, 10 minutes. All right. Okay. We're going to do our best. I'm going to try and do 2 more questions. They're going to get really mad at me. It's okay. 2 more questions. 2 more questions. Everyone, we're good with that, right? Okay. I'm going to go to you, Dorsey, first on this one. The Trump administration is brutally targeting immigrant communities, and we are watching masked ICE officers detain immigrant New Yorkers when they show up to their court hearings, when they go to work, school, or even when they go to hospitals, which used to be protected areas, mind you, right? Which is terrible. People are afraid to get care now, right? So how are you preparing for the reality of an even more aggressive and better funded ICE? How will you stand up to Trump and protect immigrants in your cities? I'll go to you, Dorsey, first, and I'll come to you, Zohran.
If elected, I would be the first, inshallah, be the first immigrant mayor of the city in generations. And what also brings so many of us to this room is the knowledge that who you are is not as important as what you do. And it is what we do in those offices that will define us. And what gives me hope is the fact that no one of us four is alone in this work. So I'd like to take a moment, if I could ask every elected official to please stand up that is here with us today. And if we can give a round of applause. These elected officials that you see, they are fighting for you at the rallies that you watch and in the rooms that you don't even know about. And I say that because I've seen it. And it's important for us to acknowledge that no one person can do this alone. No one level of government can do this alone. It will take city. It will take state. It will take federal. It will take all of us. And it will take us using the tools that we know about and the ones that we are learning about for the first time. And it is their ability to shine a light on the stakes of this that reminds people what is at hand. You know, Tony Simone, assembly member that I have had the pleasure of serving with. Tony in Albany would tell many of us the story of his own family and what this climate means for those family members. And it gives you an indication of what's happening across our entire city and our state and our country. You know, I just got back from Uganda this week, and it saddened me that I had to meet with lawyers before I even took that trip. That I had to call the Attorney General about the fact that I was going to leave the country. I had to fill out a privacy waiver because I didn't know if I would be detained. And I'm thankful that that was not the case, but what does it say that these are eventualities? What does it say that I wake up in the morning and I hear from the President of the United States of America that he wants to denaturalize me, that he wants to deport me? Because what they will say about those of us whose names we know, it leads you to wonder, what will they say about those whose names we don't? And you read the stories of what has happened to people who have been sent to El Salvador. They should chill us to the very core of our being. They are reprehensible stories that attack the very fabric of this country. And so what we have to do is work with every single one of our partners, use every single tool that we have, stand up unabashedly for the fact that we are a sanctuary city, that is a policy that has kept New Yorkers safe, and start to provide legal representation to New Yorkers in those deportation proceedings. Because if we know that the act of doing so increases the likelihood of that New Yorker by 11 times to get home to their family, then we are culpable if we don't provide them with that service. That is what we have to do so that we can live up to the symbolism of this city that we have long sought to celebrate in the immigrant nature of this same place we call home.
Thank you for that. Okay, we're on to our last question, and it's for the whole panel. We know that the task of governing is full of challenges. So what do you need from the people in this room? What do you need from the Working Families Party, from movement organizations, from labor, from elected allies to be able to succeed in delivering for working people? And if there was one thing you wanted Albany to do, we've got some state legislators in the room, listen up. What is that?
So one of the things that we have in common is that we will both face a competitive general election. And I bring that up because as much as we must celebrate what we accomplished in the primary, we have to be clear-eyed about the challenge that is ahead. And so to the question of what help do I ask for? I ask for recommitment to this same fight. And I ask for a recognition of the stakes of this fight and the scale of the opposition in this fight. We will see a similar amount of money spent in this general election. And we will see the kind of fear-mongering, the kind of slander, the kind of smears that have sadly become endemic to our politics. And yet we know that the same politics that won us that primary will be the same ones that will win us this general. So, in the way that when we started this primary, there were some that doubted whether we could get 50,000 votes, and then we ended with more than 50,000 volunteers. I challenge everyone in this room, and myself as well, that we build an even bigger campaign. A campaign that speaks to even more New Yorkers, and one that understands that New Yorkers who are registered as independents, as Republicans, they are just as in need of a city they can afford as New Yorkers who are registered as Democrats. You know, in the last 3 hours of primary day, I went through something that I think many elected officials can relate to. I was convinced we were going to lose. And I was walking around Maria Hernandez Park in Bushwick, and I met a guy, and he was like, "Can I take a selfie?" And I was like, "Have you voted?" He was like, "I haven't voted." I was like, "What are you doing?" He said, "My polling site's at my mom's house. It's like a mile away." And I had a car with me that was taking me around from site to site. And I was like, "Get in the car. Get in the car." And I sent him in that car. And then I was alone in the park. But I was like, one vote, we got one vote. But then as I left the park, there was a young man who came over on his motorbike, stopped his motorbike, took his helmet off, said, "Can I get a selfie?" I said, "Have you voted?" He said, "I was told that I can only vote in presidential elections." I said, What are you talking about?" He said, "Someone told me the way I'm registered, I can only vote in I was like, "Let's look at your registration." He was a Republican. He was 18 years old, he was a Republican. And so I said, "You can't vote today, but you can vote in November." And I tell you this story because we have that same opportunity to bring more people in, beyond those that we think of. And so I ask you to knock on doors, I ask you to contribute, I ask you to see yourself in this movement and to build this movement with us. And to Albany, what I ask is what I will also offer, which is partnership. There are elected officials who have been in Albany at a time when we had a former governor who refused to even admit that the MTA was a state entity. We spent debates over who ran the MTA, not what we would do about the MTA. And so what I ask of Albany is what I already see present in that place. I see the potential for us to deliver this agenda. And I see the potential for us to look next year in July and see significant progress towards that agenda of affordability. Because those same priorities of taxing the wealthiest in New York with the most profitable corporations, delivering for the most working class, those are the priorities you will see in every single one-house budget coming out of the Assembly and the State Senate. What if they had a partner in City Hall that instead of fear-mongering was focused on delivering for the same working people we all represent? And I can tell you I am excited for Tin Cup Day, because I have been living off just those 3 minutes I've been given. And if you're the mayor of New York City, you get a little bit more time. And it's an opportunity to build with people who've already put forward the ideas that we need to deliver on. And that's who I see in this crowd, and that's who I know I'll find in Albany, especially when we go to Shah's Halal, which is open until 3 a.m. And it sustained me many, many times when we are there for that legislative session.